Duke, you suck.
You shut your mouth!
Welcome to the Duke You Suck podcast. And now, Duke Durango.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Duke You Suck podcast. I'm here with my good friend Chris Lazansky, cannabis shop owner down at My Buddies. Chris, sports psychologist. Chris, former professional wrestler. The list goes on, brother. How the hell are you?
I'm kicking along, brother. I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing okay, man. Thanks for asking. It's so good to finally sit down and talk to you. You're
Years.
well, even I was talking to my wife before the show, and I said, Chris is one of those guys in the last 20 years. I've maybe talked to you a handful of times, but every time I talk to you, it's like I just talked to you yesterday. It's like we never sort of missed that beat, man. So it's really good to see you.
That's why from day one when I met you at the fucking old dungeon there or whatever, that's we hit it off from day one, right? Just always been on the same wavelength related to. So,
well, even immediately, and this might sound, some guys might take offense when I say this, but I can count on two hands for sure the number of guys that I came up with through the dungeon that have actually been to my house. Do you know what I mean? And you're one of the guys, like, immediately as soon as we started hanging out, you were at our house.
Yeah.
So
you and your brother and Greg.
Yeah, Pistol Pollock.
How is he doing? Have you talked to him? Did you talk?
Yeah, man. I talked to him, probably every 4 to 6 weeks. We still keep in touch. He's a directional driller, so he's out of town constantly. So he comes home maybe a week, he'll be gone for 27, 28 days, come home for a week, and then he's gone. So usually we talk when he's driving back or when he's driving back out, because once he gets home, he's just, he's got a wife and he looks after his little nephew quite a bit. So when he gets home, he's just hauling ass.
Well, he's got to be, he's got to be high in demand. Those directional drillers, man, that's just not regular drilling. Like, that's kind of an art form in a way, right? So those guys that can do it and hit it, those guys are in demand for cost.
Oh yeah, man. Well, when everything tanked, he went down to Bakersfield for a year and worked in California.
Okay.
Yeah, and then now he's excuse me, sorry, choking here. But yeah, now he's back up here. So yeah, he's one of those guys, man. He's steady Eddie. You know what I mean? He's
man. Yeah, well, stay high for me next time you talk to him.
I will, man. And the truth is, last time Wavell said this to me, I talked to Wavell a little while. I talked to Wavell all the time, actually. But he said, "Yeah, say hi to Pistol." And like 2 days later, Pistol called me. So that'll probably be the cue now.
Sweet.
Yeah. Nice. So what? Now let's talk a little bit about. You've got what I consider to be, I'm going to call it divergent technologies. Is what I came up with earlier today when I was thinking about this. What's that? Sorry.
I said I'm a computer program.
No. You're the owner of a cannabis shop, and you're also a sports psychologist.
Yes,
and
sir.
I think that these two things are quickly starting to, whether people want it to or not, or whether they realize it or not, these are two things that are really starting to kind of mesh together. Is that, especially with the science behind what we know about CBD oil and injuries,
Well, I got into the cannabis industry because, like, with the back before it was legal, 2017, then 2017 it became legal, right?
Yeah.
So then, I don't know, 2014, 2015, I got my medical cannabis,
right? Because
all the old injuries, everything, stuff like that, catching up, blah blah blah. Wanted to stay away from the gimmicks and stay away from the opioids and stuff like that. So
for sure,
went with the CBD and the cannabis and became a fan of it. And then, I just became friends with an MMA fighter at the time, and we talked about like the CBD and how it helps affect like he's got a lot of friends that are professional fighters, and they find that it helps when they take the CBD. It helps with like memory issues. It helps recover from concussions. Like, there's lots of benefits to the CBD at the time. So then that's when I decided to open up my own medical cannabis. Instead of just using it myself, I realized that it wasn't just me using it, but there was lots of people using it, right? And I guess at that time there was still the old pothead stigma to it or whatever. So it was encouraging to hear that professional athletes were using this and for legitimate reasons, not to just get high. So then I was encouraged to get into the cannabis business that way, because it did help me when I took it, right? The CBD oil, like, I'm 2 inches shorter than I used to be from doing
Right.
shit, like leg drops off the top rope, spinning fucking corkscrew, leg drops off the middle rope, like just dumb shit that's just horrible for your lower
Yeah,
back.
285-pound guys aren't meant to do that.
Yeah, well, I don't think any human being's meant to do that, right? But being
Fair.
285
Yeah.
pounds makes it a little bit worse.
Yeah.
So I used to be a shade under 6'4". Now I hover around 6'2". So I got 3 compressing discs in my, or whatever, my lower back, my
Right.
L4, L5, and an S1.
Yeah,
So
I've lost a solid inch.
yeah, see, it's right, just taking bumps, right? It just
Yeah.
takes its fucking toll. So cold winter mornings, I would have to crawl to the tub and
Oh.
get in the tub just to be able to get moving with my lower back.
Right.
Once I got on the CBD oil, complete change. So I was, a firm believer in it. So that's why I started using it. That's why I got into the business, and
Right.
I've been in the business since. And then had the opportunities to get into business within the recreational side, the dispensary side. So got into doing that as well.
Right. Yeah. Now, we talked a little bit before we started, and one of the things you'd mentioned was the regulations of it and how, what a kind of a nightmare that is to deal with as a business owner, because there's still such a stigma attached to it. Can you elaborate a little on that and kind of what you'd like to see change in the industry that way?
Just to answer your last question or last point first.
Yeah.
Just treat it like they do alcohol, or even tobacco, at least, right?
Right.
Just treat it like alcohol as far as it comes to the regulations, advertising. Like we're talking about the whole flyer and mail out thing earlier, right? Like how many times you get your newspaper or flyer in the mail? Newspaper. See, I'm dating myself here, but how many times flyers in the mail? They're from liquor stores, right?
Yeah.
So,
I get a Liquor Depot flyer on the daily.
Yeah, and if a cannabis dispensary did that, they're automatically getting fined. They're automatically getting, they can't do that. Right?
Would the post office even take the mailer?
What's that? Sorry,
I said, would the post office actually even take the mailer? Right.
That's debatable.
Yeah, they might look at it and say we can't distribute this shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I had that happen to me with my medical cannabis business.
Is that right? Hey,
Mail out for that. We tried to
what
do
happened there?
We're down there in Okotoks, so we tried to mail it for the town of Okotoks. Yeah, they
Right.
got in touch and said we can't do that. So
Right.
we don't have to because in essence, all it is the clinic is a medical office, right? We're a medical office where we don't sell anything, we don't do anything else. We're just simply a medical office there, and operate that way. So we've always been able to advertise and have no issues like that. So we don't have to deal with the AGLC like you do with the dispensary on the recreational side.
Right. Yeah, because that's one thing. My my massage therapist is right next to. She's got a liquor store on one side of her and a dispensary on the other side.
Yeah.
On the liquor side, all you see is Budweiser and Bacardi and all these posters in the window.
In the window,
Yeah,
right?
and you look at the cannabis side, and it's all frosted out white. You can't see inside. Like it's one of those like, geez, God knows what's going on in that place. Gives that kind of stigma to it.
An 80s fucking little porn shop.
Yeah, like it kind of gives it that you almost feel dirty walking in there.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, that's something I'd like to see change. I mean, whether people may not understand this, and this is something I've been saying for years and years and years, is, if you ever really think the government has your best interest at heart, the fact that tobacco and alcohol are legal tells you they really don't. And in the fact that they keep cannabis away from you, and the fact that they, made it hard for years to get like CBD and kind of things like that, tells you the government doesn't give a shit about you. And then they say, oh, it's legal and it's going to be on the same footing as alcohol. And yet, like you say, you can't advertise the same way. People can't see in your shops. Like they keep the stereotype going of like you said earlier, the old school potheads, right?
The same guy with the same knowledge. When I'm here at the dispensary, somebody comes in and buys CBD and has questions how to use it. I know as much as doctors know. I've worked with dozens of doctors. I've worked with tons of professionals, nurses. I've worked with, people at professors at universities, doctors at universities, research and study this. I've been in contact with, so I'm pretty educated on the subject.
Right.
I can say fuck all to somebody at the dispensary. I will get fined if I give any medical advice. I could lose my license.
Right.
My business partner could lose his license. So, but but when I'm at the medical clinic, I can freely talk about it. I can freely tell people what the dose to take, how much I can tell them anything, and I can answer any questions they have. It just depends which
So
location.
it's one of those I can't tell you here. Come across the street and I'll give you all the information you need.
I literally, literally give out my wife's business card because she'll be at the clinic when I'm at the dispensary.
Okay.
When you leave here, give her a call. She'll tell you how to take it. Right.
Right.
I don't think I'm doing anything wrong according to regulations by doing that. I'm just trying to help people. So,
You're giving her a referral, right?
and legitimately, when you look at the medical side of it, after it became legal, recreational happened. And everybody just decided to go to dispensaries instead of having to get their medical license, get their weed and stuff like that, to kind of go the quote unquote legal route, so they didn't have to go to the black market or what they call now the gray market.
Yeah.
After everybody who left just because they wanted to smoke bud or whatever, 2/3, 3/4 of the patients remained.
Right.
I'm sorry, not remained. Let me change that. The age changed. Became about 65 and older. We ended up getting more patients because after everybody went recreational, the quote unquote potheads kind of left to go recreational, the medical side. And there was a little more word of mouth medical side. So we got a lot more older and elderly people. And it is amazing to hear how it helps them with their arthritis. People that were crippled in their hands, like brutal rheumatoid arthritis, just all gnarled over.
Right.
It just completely, it's amazing how much it helps. They get off of all that medication that they're on, all their arthritis medication that's destroying their renal system.
Right.
So, and it's CBD. And like you said, if the government had your best interest at heart, we would have known about this 20, 30, how many years ago, right?
Yeah, for sure. They would have been even allowed to test with it, for crying out loud. Like, I was actually talking
CBD with no psychoactive effects, nothing whatsoever.
Yeah.
Was treated as the same as any other illicit substance, and it was illegal for years. You talk about the government, right?
Yeah. Well, and people wonder why people wonder why the mass population doesn't want to listen to COVID and shit like that from the government. It's like, well, because you continually misinform us anyway. So why would we actually believe anything you guys are telling us?
Yeah.
It sounds bad, but that's just the reality of what we're dealing with.
Is it just because we grow older and get more cynical or becoming wiser to the world, or what is it? Because
I think a combination of the two. You get wise to just like getting into the wrestling business, you get wise to the work. Right.
And that's
government's just a slippery promoter.
The rest of the business, then you look at everything in life, like it looks like it's a work to you. Like
I'm not kidding, man.
Politics work, you're like, that's a fucking work.
Yeah.
Do you really think those guys are in the hallway like fucking yelling and talking to each other like they are in Parliament?
Yeah.
Like, come on, man, it's a work.
Totally. And that's the thing is, once you know what a work is, you see it, right? Like I'm at a point, Chris, and people tell me I'm crazy for this, and they can, because I don't give a shit what people think anyway. But I think everything's a work. Like I think all I need are the referees. I don't need 1,000 players in the NHL or 600 players in the NFL, whatever it is. All I need are the referees.
That's it.
And I'm not saying it always goes the way they want it to, but I think there's some control going on there.
Without a doubt.
I've just seen too many dog shit calls at the wrong time. Like even you watch the NHL now, and they've got fucking technology you never dreamed of even 5-10 years ago, and now they still can't get the calls right. The next day we're still reading they blew the goal. Like, it's like, are you guys kidding me? Don't tell me that shit ain't fixed.
They gotta have like a voting system or something like that. Like fucking have the people watching the game call the replay.
Yeah, exactly. Let the fans argue it out.
Yeah,
these fucking guys in the NHL, like, and I've always said for years, and again, feel free to at me, people, because I don't give a shit. But I think the CFL has literally the worst officials in any sport anywhere. Like I think fucking high school referees are better than what's running in the CFL.
Sorry to get off topic here, but you mentioned CFL. What really upsets me is somebody who the football. Before I got into wrestling, I was a football player.
Yeah, you bet, man.
Football, right? Played college football for a short period of time before I fucked up my neck. But anyways, $30 million. That's all the Canadian government had to come up with to be able to bail out the CFL last season through COVID.
Right.
They had to come
Yeah.
up with $30 million. How much do they fund the CIBC a year? A fucking $1 billion. They couldn't come up with 30 million. And maybe I could be wrong on those numbers, but there was something that wasn't very much that the CFL
No.
needed last year.
You're probably in the ballpark.
Because the CFL doesn't have big TV deals like the NHL or anybody else. So the CFL has to rely on butts in the stands. So if there's no butts in the stands, there's no tickets sold. They're not paying their bills.
No, I think you're right, because I heard something that an NFL team gets like 30 to 40 million a game for television rights. Do you know what I mean? Where that's the CFL's whole operating, or no, maybe they get that a year, but that's the CFL's whole operating.
Then if I know
entire league.
30 million a game though, that's a feasible number. You're talking billions.
Well, 'cause I think they get $1 billion a year. Do you know what I mean? I'm almost sure the NFL gets $1 billion a year.
Oh yeah, between all their TV deals and everything.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, those franchises alone are worth $1 billion, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. And then they want to be subsidized. And people say, like, oh, we shouldn't be subsidized billionaire football players. Like, yeah, but how much other revenue does that generate? Like, that's a different conversation.
Exactly.
You know, that's one of the things that really
it's entertainment, right? It's a sport, but at the end of the day, it's entertainment, and people.
Well,
and the whole model, the advertising model, whatever the appeal is, whatever. If you got something to sell, there's a way they'll be able to market it for you, man. And there's a way people get eyes and ears on it for you.
Yeah. Well, and maybe I'm a dick for saying this, but during COVID, there was a lot of parents like, why can't my kid play hockey? Why can Sidney Crosby play and my kid can't? Because Sidney Crosby generates an economy, your kid doesn't. Don't take that the wrong way. I'm not saying your kid shouldn't be able to play hockey, but that's just the reality of the answer.
Yeah.
It's about the business.
It's about the business. But then I go a step further and go, I don't think anything should have been locked down. I'm to the extreme of that. Once we found out it wasn't going to kill 10% of the population, I just figured the lockdown was way too long, way too harsh.
I don't disagree with that, man. I got to a point where it was like, if you're at risk, stay home, but people like, who deems what an essential business? And I heard somebody say, like, just because a business isn't essential doesn't mean that job isn't. You know what I mean? And to me, that's the greater thing. When you're talking about the greater good, yeah, okay, we're trying not to overwhelm the medical system, but people got to be able to pay their rent.
Exactly. And, it's interesting too. I know they had this whole 2-week window thing and stuff, but again, due to my health and with my leukemia that I have, and having to go to the Tom Baker, go to the hospital and get to know these nurses and doctors and blah, blah, blah over the years, talking to a few of the nurses. And what happens is also what they talk about the healthcare system being overloaded is because they talk about lack of beds, but the hospitals were never completely full. So in any huge pandemic, if they need more beds, they just take beds from other wings or whatever, because there was empty beds in the hospitals, right? Just not in that specific ward when it got full.
Right.
And I could be corrected. I could be wrong on that. You can fucking hate on me that, but that's as far as I know, that's what I've heard from them. And then, sorry, I don't mean to ramble on.
Keep going, buddy.
But then if a nurse was exposed to COVID and got tested for COVID, every single nurse that worked with her that on that ward at that time would have to go in quarantine for 14 days. Didn't matter what they tested, like nothing like that. Yeah. Even if they tested negative, they had to stay gone for 14 days. So then you had to bring in a whole new batch of nurses. Yep. They're not coming from anywhere else. They're coming from the same hospital. So they're having to double up on shifts.
Absolutely.
And so that happens again. Boom. So then these poor nurses, they're working like triple shifts to cover because and the thing is out of all the nurses that are sitting at home, there's maybe a couple that are sick. 80% of them have tested negative and they could be back working, but they won't allow them back to work. So that's another thing what they talk about when they talk about the healthcare system being overloaded, right?
Yeah.
So it's the bureaucratic fucked up rules that make no sense that make it overloaded.
Well, if you want to hear me go hard on any organization in Alberta, it'll be the Alberta Health, like AHS. Fuck that company. Like, that whole outfit can eat a plate of dicks. I don't care if I offend anybody with that statement. If I have friends that work there, I do apologize. But that is the most mismanaged pile of dog shit in our province.
But
frontline workers are amazing.
The frontline workers are absolutely amazing.
100%.
And the system can take care of you when push comes to shove. And I got instances like, when my twins were born, right? Like literally, man, we're at Southport there. We're remember where old movie theaters used to be, the business towers there, taking the ultrasound. my daughter was down like 2 pounds, 2 ounces or something like that. She dropped half of her weight within a week because her placenta was breaking down. Her brother was taking all the food. So they're like, you got to get to the hospital now. We had to get to the Peter Lougheed from Southport from here in that message to when my twins were born was an hour and a half. Like,
Really?
so that system can be efficient and be good at work, and the frontline workers, it can be amazing.
Yeah, and no, please, no, at no point to my dog and the nurses and doctors and are the EMT drivers and all that stuff. No, 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 no negativity towards those guys. I just feel that for instance, when AHS makes cuts, or the government says, okay, we're giving less money to health, so ultimately it starts there. The AHS doesn't usually start with management; they start with frontline workers.
Oh yeah, no. I see what
I mean.
I completely, I agree.
Like, my attitude and all this was they probably should have gone back through the union roles and tried calling back, and maybe they did, and I don't know shit, and that would be fair statement too. But you go back through those union roles and you call back every nurse and every doctor that's listed in those union roles to see if they'll come, even to just give injections right now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, they said, oh, we could build 1,000 beds. We can build 1,000 ICU beds. This was spring, when they opened things up, spring 2020, when kind of, we had the first 2-week lockdown, then summer came and they opened things up a bit. And they said, we could put 1,000 beds in place by the fall. Where are those 1,000 beds? And people have told me, well, it's a staffing issue. Well, I understand that, but did our government and health officials not understand they couldn't staff it before they made that statement? You know what I mean? Like, it's just such a bunch of bullshit.
That's where the staffing issues, what caused it. The bureaucracy at the top, they're the fucking ones that are supposed to make the proper decisions so shit like this doesn't happen, right? So I agree 100% with what you're talking about to the top.
Well, even the company I work with, we work with a prime contractor. I'm not going to name any names here, but the prime contractor, their whole safety department got exposed to COVID, and their entire safety department was shut down for 2 weeks. And so what they did, they mandated from their head office in Toronto, is that now we have 2 times a week, we have rapid testing on our job site. And so they've got these tests, and I don't have a lot of faith in these kinds of rapid tests in the hands of every.
This is the COVID rapid test.
Yeah, you betcha. And so now we're taking this, and if it's inconclusive or positive, obviously, you've got to go home, make an appointment with 811, get a test, wait and get results. And my first question was, okay, so if we find out the test you forced me to take is negative, who's going to pay for those days off I just took? Who's paying for those 4 days off?
So
you know what I mean?
So if you're not working, you're not getting paid.
Exactly. I'm not a salaried employee, right? So I go home for 4 days. Theoretically, it doesn't happen on the weekend, I guess. And I lose 4 days pay because somebody, because of these tests that I don't know the number, but I've heard can be as high as sometimes 10 to 15%, which in fairness, I haven't seen a false positive or anything yet. But I've heard some of these tests can have kind of shitty overall records, but these people told us they administered 800 tests and didn't have one false positive or inconclusive. So that does give me some confidence too.
I don't know. I don't know. I heard if they want to ramp up the testing or whatever enough that they'll find it eventually, because everybody's had it, because we've all had some form of COVID, not just a specific strain. So if they want to keep digging deeper, they're going to find COVID in there eventually, right?
Yeah. Well, they start testing hair follicles, they'll find everything, right?
That's scary. I don't want them. Thank goodness I don't have any much hair these days. Brother.
Well, geez, you hear about these guys. Have you heard about these guys? I seen a headline on it on Twitter and kind of read a little bit about it, and I almost went down this fucking rabbit hole of these guys that say they got the vaccine and say they can prove they have a microchip in their arm because they can get a magnet to stick to their shoulder. Have you heard this shit?
Those videos, man, where they stick credit cards and they stick stuff to where they got it shot in. Have you had the vaccine yet?
I have, man. I have. I even went crazy and got the AstraZeneca.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, man. And this is really and truly, Chris, the God's honest truth. I never did a lot of gas in my day, but I definitely took some steroids back in the day, right? Smoked pot like someone was going to take it away. Drank a fair amount of booze in my day, ate like absolute dog shit at every fast food restaurant except like fucking Taco Bell. I ate them Hawkins cheesies. I've put enough shit into my body that it can't be any fucking worse. That's literally my attitude. I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying you know, plus I want to travel. And the other side is if everything, you know, I've done my research, I've erred on the side of caution. I've listened to some, you know, epidemiologists and some, you know, a really smart evolutionary biologist. And I'm fairly comfortable. Like I have asthma. So if I get COVID, I could be in deep shit.
Yeah.
You know what I
yeah.
mean? So it's kind of one of those. And the other side is I'm more afraid of, you know, the downside to the vaccine is I would be more afraid of who I could give COVID to than getting it because I'm a reasonably healthy guy. You know what I mean? So I'm more, but even what burns my ass a little bit is that even if you've had the vaccine, you can still transmit COVID, you know, which means a lot of these regulations that they're saying are going to go away, they're not going to go away.
Man, Spencer Tapley, poor Spencer, man. He's like sending out these COVID things, and I start sending him the hard facts on COVID.
Right.
At the end of the day, man, it's like the amount of Albertans that have gotten COVID, like you know, to date has been like something like 250,000 based on our population of what 3.5 million or something like that in Alberta. And then you break it down from there when you break it down age groups or whatever. And it's not all that fatal, right? And even if you get sick, like you know, you know, most people just shrug it off, and that's the thing, right? If they do get it, they're going to shrug it off. The odds of getting it are rare. If you do get it,
excuse me,
most people aren't even going to know that they had it.
Yeah, well, I think that's the weird thing with it.
I'm not going to deny it. A good friend of mine, she's a healthy girl. She like you had the same background that you did, minus the steroids.
Right.
She fucking almost died from COVID, right? Like she got hit hard from it, right? And I remember I was seeing on whatever, I can't remember, Facebook or something like that. I never met the worker, but he was one of the wrestlers from up.
Oh yeah, Mark Kinghorn.
That kid got it, right?
Yeah.
And thank God he's doing okay now. But he ended up in a coma, the kid, right?
Yeah, they had to medically induce him.
Yeah, so like you know, and the same thing happened with Tracy. So like. So I'm not, by no means am I not saying it's not bad. Like it can turn really bad, but then I just play the odds in my mind, and I've just kind of been, maybe I'm whatever, maybe because of my cancer or whatever, become more fatalistic. But I'm just like,
right,
man, I'm not gonna. If I get it, I get it, and whatever, man, I'll be fine. Odds are I'm gonna be fine. I've had the same attitude when it comes to my kids, not just myself and my wife. Like I think, like, don't sweat it. It's not that big of a deal. And
you know what, man? No judgment for me though. There's an element of logic in what you're saying, right? Like I remember back, I wish I could remember. I can't remember if it was bird flu, and I get these mixed up because I'm a dummy, but H1N1, bird flu, and SARS. I remember those three being big things. Two of them might be the same thing. But I remember doing the math on how, you know, okay, because I don't get flu shots, right? So I'm doing the math on this vaccine, and I'm thinking, okay, if all this percentage of the population gets the vaccine, this is the percentage of the population I'm exposed to. I got maybe a 0.5 in 10 chance of getting this, bird flu or SARS or whatever it was. I didn't get the vaccine.
That was the SARS was way more deadly than
right.
this.
And I didn't get that vaccine. So please know that I hold people that don't want to get this, no judgment.
Yeah, right? Fair enough. And I with me, I don't have any, I'm the other way. I haven't got it. I don't plan on getting it, unless all of a sudden the COVID all of a sudden takes a really definitely fatal turn, and all of a sudden it goes way up and it's killing 10% of the population. Then but I look at risk versus reward nowadays, because same background as you with the fucking hard party and fucking everything, right?
Yeah.
But I think, like dumbass, I think I took it further than you did, right? As far as some of the drugs.
Yeah, I avoided hard drugs.
Yeah, and I never, I pretty much fucked with everything except heroin. So
right.
But so I'm the same thing you are, but I just look at I hear about side effects. Like one of my doctors that I work with. I was just looking on Facebook here to see if I could find the numbers that I sent Spencer, but I couldn't find it. But one of the doctors had said the amount of patients that are coming in with side effects, and it doesn't matter which vaccine it is, from different blood clots to this to that, blah blah blah. So even she's holding off and not getting the shots, right? So
right, man.
So I just hear about the side effects of shots and stuff like that. So I get freaked out. So then I just think, well, you know what? I think the stuff and we don't know what the long-term effects are of this one. I know. No, and
I understand all that. I totally, and that's why I say, I hold nobody in it. One thing that's really pissed me off in all the COVID has been the polarization. right? Like if you think COVID's real, you're a fucking idiot. Well, if you think it's not real, you're a fucking idiot. You know what I mean? It's just
It's
like
like
all we
everything
can
else.
do is do our own research and make a decision based on that, right? Like
Why
it's
can't you be middle of the road anymore? Why is everybody gotta be fucking extreme? Why can't you be nuanced with shit?
yeah. Well, even you and I are two guys sitting here. I've had the vaccine, you know, you haven't, and you know what? There's no heat, there's no animosity or anger in anything we're saying,
Well, you're speak for
right?
yourself.
Yeah. But the thing is, I'm listening legitimately to what you're saying, right? Because I still have a second shot coming up. Do I or do you know? Here's the thing with they know okay, Zeneca's running short. Do I want to be mixing vaccines?
Okay, so
You know,
so take this a step further because I haven't got the vaccine. I'll check this out. Because then like you say, I watch everything from CBC, CNN to MSNBC to Fox News to all the way to Alex Jones, right?
right.
And everything. You know, I don't just to try to figure out like and that's
Somewhere
not,
in the middle of
they're
all
not-
that shit is the truth.
Yeah, and you got to
Right.
be smart enough to be able to figure it out and
Yeah,
figure
you
out
bet.
what the truth is and where the middle of the road. And generally, 9 times out of 10, it's in the middle of the road. It's sometimes can be scary how many times Alex Jones can be right though on this shit, and Alex Jones can call this stuff 20 years ahead of times, man. Like I don't know what's up with
You know, he's had some real fucking bad misses.
oh big time, big
Yeah,
time.
but at the same time, yeah, he's exposed some interesting stuff. You know,
Yeah.
people can say what they want. I'm not somebody that follows a lot of Alex Jones, but I don't discredit Alex Jones in any way, shape, or form because he has said some stuff years before anybody else was talking about it that turned out to be true.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah,
So he's just thing about Alex Jones is he's simply a polarizing personality more than anything.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's a wildcat and you either love him or hate him, no matter what he's saying. I think Alex Jones is entertaining as fuck.
He's
Right?
and he knows how to work his gimmick, man.
Yeah, for sure.
His gimmick can turn it on that crazy, man. He knows how to, and he knows how to push the envelope far enough to get people talking, but not
Yeah.
too far. Like the sand, like something like Sandy Hook, for example, from what I've heard, when people got all mad at him about that. Well, he realized he took it a little bit too far and dialed.
Yeah, he fucked that one up.
That went up big time.
Yeah. I'm going pretty light when he fucked that up. Like that was that was dumb. You know, but again, here's the thing, going back to what we were saying about looking at everything through the lens of a wrestler thinking everything's a work. When you look at everything in life through the lens of a conspiracy theory, you'll see it everywhere, almost whether you want to or not.
Yeah,
It's kind of like somebody and this is maybe not the time to be talking about this, could get me in shit. But if a person that's experienced racism their whole life, they will be prone to look at everything through that filter, that everything towards them is racist. And if they do, they'll find it everywhere they look. Do you know what I mean? It's, when you look for it, it's always going to be there.
Yeah. Yeah. If you do. Okay. So I try to use rational thinking about it. So let's talk about the whole COVID thing, the whole lockdown thing, the whole conspiracy theory thing. You talk about like, why does this shit happen? Walmart, Home Depot, Shoppers Drug, all these big places can be open, right?
Yeah.
Mom and pop hardware store can't be open.
Agreed,
right?
100%.
Right, they can't be open because you can't have people in there. But but let's say Home Depot can have 300 people in there or whatever, 1,000 people, but now they only can have 300 at a time.
Yeah.
Well, mom and pop shop just does the same thing. You just go down the same percent. If you used to be able to have 30 people in your store at a time, now you're allowed to have 7 people in your store at a time.
Yeah.
Why the fuck is mom and pop have to be shut down? That makes no sense to me.
Yeah. Which is what I think happened during this last set of lockdowns, right? And the backlash from people, I think, and I don't want to say on the left because it's easy to generalize, but I agree 100% with you. These businesses should have been left to run, because if Walmart can sell clothing during this, so can Sheila's secondhand consignment store that sells clothing. Do you know what I mean? That the fact that she had to close and Walmart didn't is absolute fucking horseshit. Right. And if you say to me, okay, well, they sell food. Okay, cool. Then rope off everything else they sell there that isn't essential, like food. And that can't be sold at that store, because you got to give them a level playing field. Right. And the problem for me wasn't the regulation. The problem is the ridiculousness and the contradiction within the regulations. Right. Like you say, to your point, Walmart has to lower their thing mom and pop store has to close. That's horseshit.
Yeah, yeah. And then tied in with my medical clinic, the amount of cases of depression, couples fighting, the amount of cases of kids' anxiety and depression by being homeschooled that our doctors were seeing just fucking skyrocketed.
Right.
It's depressing. Like that's something that they don't talk about, right?
Yeah.
Had to deal with a few parents that had to deal with their kids, committing suicide because of being depressed over, and so because then they're seeing the doctor over, depression and stuff like that, right? And so on top of the meds or whatever, so these doctors that can prescribe other meds, they like do kind of the reason they do work in a medical cannabis clinic is because they are more open
Right.
to the natural route. So they will have these people use CBD on top of the other stuff, and while they're seeing like a psychiatrist or whoever they need to see the qualified professional to help, right? So we just got to interact, just dealing with the people, helping them take their microdose and helping them take the CBD or THC to sleep or however the doctors, right? So we just tell them how to take the doctor's instructions.
Yeah.
And so, but like I said, so that it's amazing. It's just how that has gone up. We don't talk about that at all.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of those things, I heard a lot of people mouthing off about why are cannabis stores and liquor stores allowed to stay open during all this stuff. Yeah. And I didn't know the answer, but I was talking to a friend of mine that actually all but died of COVID, but also happens to work in hospitals, and was told that essentially the idea was we can't have every alcoholic in the city detoxing at the same time.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you know what I mean? And people, that's one of those dirty little things people don't want to say out loud.
I thought about that, but that makes so much sense.
Yeah, people don't want to say that out loud, right? But that's the truth. That's the reality.
People die from the DTs, man. From alcohol, people die, man. We've known.
So now, could you imagine all your emergency rooms full of COVID patients and detoxing alcoholics and or drug addicts?
Yeah,
right. Like that's a whole nother thing, and I never thought about it that way because I'm not an alcoholic. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. That never crossed my mind. So then because I was about to say before you finished, what about gyms? Because if they're worried about all other stuff and you worry about health, then what about gyms? Why aren't gyms,
Well, the thing for me with any business and especially gyms would be this. Okay. And I'll use, Good Life Fitness in Mackenzie Town, because that's where I used to go to the gym. Yeah. Mackenzie Town finds out, okay, we've had 2 people in our gym that had COVID and we think it might be from the gym. We shut down the gym, we fog the gym, we clean the gym, we reopen the gym, right? You get a COVID case at your restaurant. We close the restaurant, we fog the restaurant, we clean the restaurant, we sterilize the restaurant, we reopen the restaurant.
Yeah, so you're doing that every time. You're open for a day and you have to fucking do it again.
Well, I mean, hopefully not. Do you know what I mean? But to me, to just shut down all business blankly is almost as ridiculous as what I've just said. But at least the statement I've made allows that business to be open, where the government says, no, my barbershop, for instance, never had a case of COVID at it, but my barbershop's closed. How the fuck is that justified? Right? If you got a COVID case at your barbershop, close your barbershop, clean it, and reopen.
Yep. Exactly. Okay.
Yeah. I just don't want to see all these businesses just permanently closed. Right. And people, whether or not it happens, I don't want to keep going on about COVID, but whether or not it happens, I don't think people realize this is going to happen again in the fall. People don't understand, because you can still get COVID with a vaccine. This is going to happen again in the fall, for fucking sure. We're going to get locked down again.
Yeah, right? And people are outside now. They're saying the sunshine kills it. Vitamin D is good. So for sure, there's a lot of reasons why it'll come back on the fall. Yeah. And then, like you said, with so is that when did you get your first shot?
May, I want to say May 10th or 11th. Okay. And man, I'm not kidding you. 0 side effect. Like not even a sore injection site. Nothing.
Right? And then when you do your second one?
When I do my second one, I'll probably, if it's available, I'll probably go with Zeneca again. And honestly, solely for the reason that I'm more comfortable with the shit you hear about Zeneca than unproven mixing vaccines. Right? Like, I mean,
I don't know. When are you going to get it?
I'll probably get it because I think they're telling you to wait 12 weeks. So
Okay.
I'll probably get mine. I think I come up in July or August then.
Okay.
Right. Like, and it's one of those things I was talking to somebody about it the other day that said, I'll get it, but I'm not rushing to get it. And if I didn't have asthma, that'd totally be me. Like, oh, what's that? We want to go on a trip. Okay. I'm going to go get the vaccine. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is the biggest human clinical trial in history. You know what I mean? Like,
Again, I could be.
don't want to admit
exactly right.
that's, that's not a nice way to say it, but that's the truth.
You're absolutely right, because I've heard normally 2 to 4 years after when they're just about to release it, they'll do a study with with people who are volunteering.
Yeah.
And they'll do a 2 to 4 year study to see long-term effects and how potential long-term effects can at least like lead to or play out. This
Right.
time they had no time to do it. They rushed it straight to market, right? So that's the big thing.
Well,
So we don't
the-
long-term effects is what scares me.
The only comfort I take in
women,
the
because I've
comfort
heard,
I,
like, fucked up lots of women's periods and stuff like that too,
Yeah.
right?
well, and I mean, the other thing I say is whenever if I gave 7 billion people a tomato to eat, I would get a percentage of reactions.
of course.
Do you know what I mean? Like, so that part, I don't know, to me, there's acceptable risk isn't the thing, because I don't want to make someone's life sound like it's worth the risk to kill that person to test this vaccine. Do you know what I mean? What makes me a little more comfortable, if that's the right word, is that mRNA vaccines, they've been working with these for over a decade.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So they change up a protein and kind of go at it that way. So that makes me a little more comfortable, but
Yeah.
still not 100% like willy-nilly. Let's just start throwing this shit around. Right. Like it's again, I'm such a middle of the road guy. I'm like, I've had the vaccine, but I still don't know if I trust the vaccine. But I also don't trust what's in Hawkins cheesies, and I eat those fucking things like they're free.
Okay, but this is my perspective. I'm on for 4 years now, right? I diagnosed, the doctors think I had cancer for probably about 3 or 4 years even before I got diagnosed with the way everything played. But so for 4 years I've been on an oral chemo type medication.
Okay.
Take a pill every day, and the side effects from it the daily side effects are horrendous.
Right.
I'm starting to see some long-term side effects from it. Like,
Okay.
so first off, imagine every fucking day. Okay, first off, imagine when you take it, you all of a sudden develop, like, you're already not feeling good from the cancer. You're already good mental. But imagine you take a pill, your IQ drops 20%. Your fucking ability to carry on a conversation drops 20%.
Right. Your cognitive function lowers.
And you have a flu. Every fucking day you have a flu. It just depends on how bad the flu is.
Right.
On a horrible day, you're fucking hugging the toilet, fucking can't get off the toilet, can't go to bed, you fucking shake out the shakes. On your best days, it's like a minor kind of annoyance type flu. You just, the ones that you just fight through it, just whatever, man. No good.
Right.
And so, and it's everything, and it's everything in between. So that's, and if you look up the medication, there's like 4 pages of just full of side effects, right?
Yeah.
The most enjoyable one, I have to say, is imagine having a sunburn from head to toe, from like every skin, ears, fucking your eyelids, like every piece of skin on your whole body having a sunburn, but on the inside, including the bottom of your feet and the palms of your hands. And then again, on good days, it's kind of a minor tingling annoyance, but on bad days, it's like a fucking 3-degree sunburn. And these are side effects from this fucking chemo fucking medicine that I'm on.
Right.
Not to mention the fucking absolute hair loss that was just falling out in absolute clumps as soon as I got on this stuff, right? So those are daily side effects. Now, I'm not crying on anybody's shoulders, but this is just a fact of life.
No, man. We all need to hear shit like this. This is a reality of what a guy deals with when he's sick.
Now I have an aneurysm has formed
within
the last 4 months out of nowhere on my aorta, my artery, my aorta. Apparently, I could be ignorant. I could be missing this. Right where the aortic valve enters the heart.
Okay.
Right. And so this came out of nowhere within the last 4 months. Some doctors think it's a side effect of the medication, and the ones that don't just say, well, yeah, the medication caused strokes, heart attacks, thickening of the arteries, and more arterial plaque. And it's like, well, then so
That falls right in the wheelhouse the way they just
within 4
described
years,
it.
so within 4 years, there's a long-term side effects. And so I just
Right.
recently found this out. So on June 21st, I got to talk to the cardiologist and figure out how we're going to deal with this shit. But this
Jesus.
is a side effect. So when you talk about long-term side effects of the COVID vaccine, that's why
Yeah.
I tell people, like, just fucking hold off and just see how this shit's going to play out.
Yeah.
Because the medication that I'm on has only been around. It was the FDA released it about 10 years ago, but it really just kind of started being used a lot within the last 5 years, basically.
Right.
When I got
Which is
sick.
how these test drugs usually go, right?
But don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I would be dead. I would have been dead within. I probably would have been dead within a month or two.
Is that right?
I
Hey.
was so fucking sick. I was just so stubborn. My wife kept telling me to go to the doctor, and I was just like, "Oh man, I'll just sleep it off. I'll just fucking fight through it at the gym and sweat it out." Like
I'll
just
be fine.
a dumb fucking meathead shit. Like deep inside, I also knew I was sick, man, but I just didn't want to fucking hear it. So it was just like, man, out of sight, out of like just that
Total denial.
total denial, right? So yeah, but the medications kept me alive. Without the medication, I would have been dead. Like when I was like finally found out I was sick back in August 6, 2017. We were in Mexico in late July with the kids. And it's just, man, we went zipline and I just fucking winded, man. Like I just couldn't like walk up the hill, walk up the mountain. I'm like, man, this is just a hike. What the fuck is wrong with me? And no matter how hard I fought through it, I was just fucking winded and felt shaky. Like I was like
Really?
the kids off in the distance, right? Couldn't fucking yell because I'm so winded for them to, but my chest wasn't hurting, so it wasn't a heart attack or anything like that. So basically, my spleen was shutting down. It's like enlarged to 4 times that it was.
Oh.
A bunch of internal organs. My fucking white blood cells were like a 214 count or something like crazy going off the charts. So yeah,
Jesus.
so then I go for a blood work, within a couple. As soon as we got, and then the funniest part was from my knees all the way down to the tips of my toes ballooned out, man. I had these big fat cankles.
Really?
When you poke my skin, the indentation would stay there for like 30, 45 seconds before it would go back to normal. I was getting that much fluid. So I was freaked out they weren't going to let me on the plane. So coming back, I'm making sure I'm wearing like long baggy pants. I couldn't wear regular shoes, right? So I had to like put these sandals on as loose as I could, but I put socks. I was one of those guys wearing socks with my sandals so I could fucking hide.
So you get on a plane.
I didn't want them saying anything about, what, if anything, making me fucking have to miss the plane or something. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus. Then no problems on the plane though, because people don't realize how altitude makes your organs compress and shit like that.
Yeah, no. So I was fine. I was fine. Probably just a little paranoid at that part. So the rest, like they say, is history, man. So that's the reason. That's the reason why I'm hesitant for people getting the COVID vaccine. So
yeah, man. Well, and again, you're speaking from personal experience. It's not like you're just pie in the sky in this bullshit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this type of medicine that I'm on is a chemo type therapy, but it's again, I'm speaking out of ignorance. It's somehow related, branched off from, it's kind of in that same ballpark as the immunotherapy, which is the mRNA vaccine. It was designed originally for cancer.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely right.
Now they're taking the application over to the COVID.
Yeah, you bet. Okay. So yeah, I mean that kind of gives you a little stroke there. Let's switch gears for a second. Something we touched on for half a second earlier when we started talking. How did you actually get into doing sports psychology with UFC fighters? How does something like that even happen?
So fuck, man. Fucking long story, man. So before I got into wrestling, I went to Arizona State University, and I studied psychology,
right,
and focused on sports psychology.
That's when I met you, just when you left university, right?
Right, I left university. Yeah, man. Okay. I wanted to. I really missed playing college ball. I was going crazy, not doing something. Like university I was doing all right at university. I was having fun, but I was also getting into trouble at the time.
Right.
I guess it's been like 30 years now. So, but selling like steroids and selling like ecstasy and fucking bouncing at shitty bars and getting paid under the table, getting in fights and just
right.
Man, I just had to get away from it. So I remember I went to visit my brother who was working for Carlos Colon out in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
I just had to get away and had some money saved up. So I went to visit Mike, travel with the boys for 2 weeks. And I'm like, hanging out in the dressing room, being on the road with the boys up and down the road in Puerto Rico, going to the gym in the daytime, hanging out at the beach, going to the bar after, going to the bar after the rest of the matches, then going to the after bar after the bar. Be like, do this and get paid for this shit. I'm like, this is fucking amazing, right? And that's how I got into the wrestling business. So,
Right.
just after university.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I never pursued the psychology thing or did anything with the psychology thing,
Right,
or anything like that. And then, everything just kind of one thing. And then, but, going back, like I always studied because, after I quit playing college football, I changed universities because originally I was down in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I ended up going to Arizona State University.
okay.
So, I got into like really heavy into like, I read like that Tony Robbins shit and stuff like that.
Okay.
I never got into the raw type stuff, but just like how to create goals, how to be focused, how to create baby steps to make changes, like all the positive stuff, like, even the stuff like positive.
Like if you're not into the raw shit, cool, but it's not like you say, there's a plan there that works.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of stuff. And now that I apply it, I know the stuff works. So I've been just educating myself, like I'm working on the stuff all the time. So 5-6 years ago now, longer than that, man. I was still with my previous wife. So, geez, I had to be over. Like, see, that's how getting hit in the head, like we were talking about earlier.
The long-term side effects.
Like my eldest is 18, so I'm like, this is like 20 years ago. One thing my ex-wife and I used to fight about, and you know me, I wasn't the most timely fella. I was always be running late. So I fucking finally saw a hypnotherapist. I don't know how it came up or how my ex-wife did, or and I were fighting, or I don't know. Or actually, I think we went to see her for marriage counseling. And then she also mentioned she was a hypnotherapist and that she could help me hypnotize me to be on time. I was like, fuck, this ain't gonna work. So I get hypnotized from the lady. I'm aware of what she's saying the whole time, but I'm kind of like, in the hypnotic state, which I can explain later. But so end story. After everything's said and done, all that it did for me is I was the type of guy, I was a dick. If you were 30 minutes away and I hadn't left my house yet, and I knew it was going to take me 30 minutes to get to you, and you called me and said, Chris, where are you at? I'd be there, man, I'll be there in 10-15 minutes. Right. So making me fucking late. I would do so all of a sudden I wouldn't do that anymore. I'd be like, you know what, man, I'm just leaving the house now. Give me 30-40 minutes. I'll see you. But even better than that, in my own head, I would find myself organized better. Go, okay, man, I got to be there at 7, so I got to leave the house by 6:30. So I got to have this.
I can't bullshit this guy.
Right. And it fucking worked. It wasn't like just some miracle cure and all of a sudden I was on time.
Right.
It kind of refocused my brain and kind of like, oh man, this
change your perspective.
So then a few years later, I start studying hypnosis, and I've been working with hypnosis now for a few years with these. So I've been incorporating that into sports psychology. And so then I decided over the years as well, in recent years, before I learned the hypnosis, I've helped some young athletes and wrestlers and stuff like that who are going to college for various sports, basketball, a lot of kids in high school basketball and stuff like that, and worked with them, helped them through visualization techniques and stuff like that.
Right.
So then I just I incorporated, and then I found out that due to the pandemic is I found out that the hypnosis shit works over Zoom.
It does. Okay.
Fucking boom. So now I'm not limited to just dealing with high school kids, young kids that got the yips, now, and just talking them through it. And then, I also have the tool of the hypnosis now.
Wow.
I'm like, this blah, blah, blah. So it all works out together. So pardon me if I'm kind of rambling on here a little bit.
No, man, I'm listening. I'm good.
So anyways, start reaching out to these professional athletes, man. I started getting in touch with them, reaching out to them. And then sure enough, a few of them had responded to me.
Okay.
And then, and then I chat with them a couple times to see if we can develop a rapport or whatever. And we'll talk on the phone, then we'll get on a Zoom call like this. And if they feel comfortable work, because the most important thing is you got to be comfortable, or else the hypnosis isn't going to work. You
Right.
got to go completely 100% relaxed. And people think because I'm strong-minded alpha, it's not going to work on me. That's the best people that works on with the strongest willed people.
Is that right, eh?
If you can just allow yourself to relax and go.
Right.
So, and then I just started reaching out, and then some of these fires, I don't, man, I don't like throwing names around. I know some guys aren't.
No,
with it,
I'm
but
cool with that. Don't. Yeah.
some guys are okay with it, so I don't want to blindside any.
Yeah.
But it's been successful, man. And like, I got one guy coming up fighting next week in Abu Dhabi. I had another guy that just won 2 days ago. For I guess Oscar De La Hoya started a new promotion or something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
So for him, and so he won his fight. So that I've been pretty successul helping these guys.
Good for you. Congratulations, man.
Doing this, so I do the sports psychology. I do and then I've incorporated the hypnosis with the sports psychology is basically what I've done. And the sports psychology includes basic visualization, goal setting, structuring, positive self-talk, positive thinking. There's a whole bunch of things that incorporates on a sports psychology level. And like a sports psychologist would work with, I've just added the hypnosis to it. I think it's like the icing on the cake for these guys.
Right.
It's a very valuable tool, whether it improves your game 1% or improves your game 50%. I don't know, but it's been all over the scale how much this has fucking helped these guys, right?
Well, the thing is, when you get to an elite level, 1% is a big number.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that, people are like, it's 1%. When you're at the very top, that could be the difference.
And a lot of these guys, man, and gals they've got some sort of anxiety. So you got to help them
right.
shake off the anxiety. You got to help them shake off the anxiety. So however it is. So a lot of visualization, a lot of NLP anchoring works fantastic for people. So when I incorporate the NLP anchoring into the hypnosis session, the way that I, the wording that I use and stuff like that. So
right.
Yeah, it's been fascinating. Like, and over the years with doing everything, I've helped people lose weight. I've helped people quit smoking. All the regular blah 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 with hypnosis is a very valuable tool.
Right.
I've been an athlete my whole life. Even when I quit taking bumps, it was just because my back was fucking destroyed. I couldn't work anymore. 2 inches shorter than I used to be with my fusing discs in my back. So, but I've always been to the gym. I've still kept taking my martial arts training. My martial arts, so I've been an athlete my whole life. But I've noticed that very few, even when I was in different clubs and stuff like that, coaches don't have time to teach kids. They'll work on basic mental strength, like they're not going to take time, and they don't have the time, especially when you deal with elite athletes and coaches, to do this nuanced shit.
Well, how do they specialize in that, right? Like they've spent their entire life learning one part of it. What you're doing, they don't have time to learn what you're doing.
And that's just with sports psychologists. Again, I go back to where I figured niche is add the hypnosis to it, be the basic sports psychologist, but add the hypnosis to it. And there's
Well, probably the sport I follow closest now, and when I say sport, I mean like legit, big four sports, is a PGA golf. I watch a lot of golf, and pretty much every guy on the PGA tour, and some of them have the same guys, but pretty much every guy to a man has a sports psychologist on the PGA tour.
And those guys deal with such pressure. They need to have such focus. Dude, I'm going to tell you a visualization thing. It's a visualization study, which I've found very fascinating, which kind of really got me kind of sold on a lot of this stuff, that people like just visualization on how powerful a tool it is. Back around, I want to say 82, I believe it was UCLA did a study with basketball, 200 participants. They measured how many free throws everybody could make out of 10.
Right.
Divided them into two equal groups. Half groups worked for the afternoon on improving their free throws. The other half sat there and visualized it. Just visualize themselves, perfect fucking technique, elbow in, knees, follow through, but just perfect, right?
Right.
And the visual at the end of the day, when they went and reshot again, the 10 free throws, the people that visualized did better than the people that practiced.
Right.
So that shows you just powerful, and they had the big enough numbers and blah 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 blah. So it was you get into statistics and stuff like that. It was statistically
It was a
valid.
large enough test group that they could legitimately determine that
Yeah,
the
exactly.
visualization had a better result.
Yeah, and then you get into that like secret woo woo bullshit about positive thinking and wish for it, want it. There is fact in the work of being positive and not negative, and the power of the positive thoughts and how
100%. Doesn't take away that you got to do the work, but there's definitely 100%. You got to think positively while you're doing that work.
Yeah, a golfer never says to himself, should never say to himself, I'm not going to make this putt. I can't make this putt. I know I can make this putt. I can make it. I've done it 1,000 times before. This is just another day at the office. I've done this in practice. I've done this before thousands, hundreds of thousands of times. This is no big deal. I got this. As soon as you start thinking negatively, you correct it immediately. And then where the subconscious mind comes in, once you start doing that, you start reprogramming the subconscious mind on a certain level. And then those thoughts start coming less and less.
Right.
And where hypnosis speeds it up is instead of having to work at, let's say, 10 sessions with somebody, through hypnosis, you can speed it up. So those subconscious thoughts, that mental battle that you have with yourself happens. You can almost delete it from happening or greatly reduce it. Hypnosis just speeds up the process, right?
Okay.
It just makes your meditations and visualizations, it makes them more intense, it makes them more vivid. When it comes to visualizations, I have the athletes see it. If you can smell it, they hear it, taste it, feel it physically, feel it inside. The more reality that you can bring to your visualization, your mind does not realize, your subconscious mind does not realize the difference between if it really happened or if it didn't, if you can make that visualization as realistic. That's why if somebody tells themselves, knows they're bullshitting and telling them a lie, but if they tell it enough, they literally fucking convince themselves that it's not a fucking lie anymore, because they're subconscious and they literally don't remember it. They remember it the way they want because they fucking reprogrammed
it. It's not a lie if they believe it, right?
Yeah, and we operate on our subconscious mind. Whenever you're in the car, you're just daydreaming, zoning out. We're operating on our subconscious mind 80% of our day on autopilot.
Right.
And that affects us so much. So if you can learn to control and reprogram that subconscious mind, all of a sudden your habits start becoming better. And then, you talk about even the physical structure of the brain with neuroplasticity. When you do something consistently for 28 days, it becomes a habit and it's no longer a battle. Like you don't have to fucking oh man, I got to get up this morning and go to the gym.
Yeah.
You've done it like 28 times.
You can get through the first month. Most people will stick with it.
You're used to it. You're not even thinking about it. Right.
Yeah.
And so again, with hypnosis, we try to shorten that. And I'd like to call hypnosis guided visualization with a purpose, with intention.
Right.
I hate the fucking word hypnosis. It makes me think of people quacking like a fucking duck on stage, right?
Right. Yeah.
And it's a fucking work. We go back to what we talked about.
Yeah.
That's just a fucking work. The people are going along with it, whether they realize it or not. They want to please or whatever it is. They're going along with it. If they truly didn't want to do that, they would snap out of it. Why do you think the hypnotist will fucking see out of 100 people who they can kind of get in a trance?
Who's most open to suggestion?
Test them, see who's most suggestible, most willing to relax and go along with it, right? Yeah. But that you're never going to get somebody to do what they don't want to do or what they disagree with.
Well, a guy like me probably wouldn't do well on one of those like comedy hypnosis, because I'd be the whole time like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, you would be. Yeah, I'd be the same way, right? So they just let's get the fuck out of there, get off the stage.
I'll just watch those other guys act like a chicken,
Yeah, exactly. So the best way I can describe being hypnotized that I explain to people when they've never been hypnotized before is you don't want to go out. You want to go, that feeling. Have you ever had that feeling just before you're falling asleep at night or just waking up in the morning when both your body and your mind feels awake but asleep at the same time?
That's what I was thinking when you were describing it to me, that you knew everything that was going on. I was like, kind of like when you're falling asleep, but I didn't want to interrupt you.
So what's happening at that time is we function, our conscious mind, when we function, we're on beta wavelength. Our brain's on beta wavelength. When we relax, we're shifting down just before we're falling asleep. We're just totally relaxed and stuff like that. And kind of our subconscious mind takes over. We're on autopilot. We're chilling. We're in alpha brainwaves. just to fall asleep in that area, we're shifting to theta brainwaves, and
Okay.
that's when the mind is like the most susceptible and the best to quote unquote reprogram a computer, or your mind, the computer.
Okay. Yeah.
To get you to that state. So you're aware, man. You can hear what I'm saying to you. You can hear what's going on, but I'm fucking plowing what you want, the positive suggestions we've talked
Right.
about before, whatever you want to work on, man. You know, I work with guys in the UFC. They just want to be fucking programmed to be fucking killers, right? So it's just like, you're fucking so-and-so. You're fucking, man, you prove to the world, like, just fucking, even just talk them up, like you throw a little bit of like a motivational speech type thing.
Right.
And it helps. It does. I truly I've been able to see good results. And so the more results that I've seen, the more guys and gals that I've been able to help. I work with professional boxers as well, WBO, WBC. I work with top level jiu-jitsu, like people that have competed in that flow grappling that's going on right now. I don't know if you know jiu-jitsu at all. So yeah. So and bodybuilders, man. I've dealt with a couple of pro bodybuilders and fitness models.
I would think bodybuilders would really be interested in something like this, because to me, I don't think there's a sport, and people don't want to call it a sport, whatever, but I don't think there's a sport that requires more discipline than bodybuilding.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. Bullshit, not a sport, man.
Yeah.
That requires so much. And have you 100%. Seen this? Like, I don't give a fuck what they look like. Have you seen what those fitness gals can do as far as their gymnastics and what they can do? Say those ladies are not,
and like 4 or 5% body fat,
and they're shredded, and they're fucking doing like fucking 720s or whatever the fucking, like, in backflips. And it's just like, you cannot say that these women are not athletes.
No, they're unbelievable.
They're like elite gymnasts, the way that they jump around, you know, and even though, like, and the diet and the dedication that any of them take.
All right, after a technical difficulty, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, Chris, continue on with the hypnosis.
Okay, so I think when we got cut off, let's talk about how it benefits bodybuilders and fitness type people and what good athletes they are. But anyways, like I've worked with like top level, like Olympia type bodybuilder, right? Like, so I've dealt with definitely I don't know. Do you follow bodybuilding at all?
Not anymore, man.
Okay.
I was really into it when I was a young kid, but yeah, I mean, I was down in Vegas in 2018-ish, maybe 2017, 2018. And Mr. Olympia was actually going. I was there during Olympia week.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, never in my life did I feel shorter and or fatter.
Just all the big fellas and gals around there.
Man, I'm not kidding you. It was just, like, you know, I was with, I don't know if you know who Chris Steele is. He's a guy, you know, 6 feet, 250 at the time. And he looked tiny. You know what I mean? Like,
that's funny. That's too much. Yeah. So no, these guys, so they're massive, man. To say it's like, you know, to be three
arms thicker than my whole body.
Yeah, like you really can't appreciate, like you said, until you see these people up close, how massive they are.
Yeah,
and how good shape they're in, how lean they are, shredded they are. Like, doesn't matter if it's the guys or the gals. Like, it's just unbelievable how they can get their body fat so low, and just the discipline that it takes. Like, people don't understand the discipline, the dedication. Like, you can't, like, anybody who just says it's all drugs or blah blah blah. You are so fucking ignorant, man. Like, drugs, sure, they're part of it, but yeah, of course they can all do it.
That's attacking
it. Of course, anybody can do all the drugs they want, but it's all diet and it just go on with the stuff.
I could take as many drugs as those guys are taking, and I wouldn't look like that.
Exactly. Genetics, you know first start, number one, genetics. Most people do not have those genetics. You don't want to admit it to yourself. So so the next
one thing people don't know about drugs, and this is, you know, for you people out there that think you know something about steroids, I'm telling you right now, you probably don't know shit. And the reason I say that is these athletes don't cheat when they take drugs. I mean, when you're at the Olympics and it's against the rules, that's cheating. But what people don't understand, when somebody like a professional bodybuilder takes steroids, it actually puts them in a position where they can work harder because they recover faster. Am I saying it's right or wrong? No, I'm not taking a moral stance on it. I'm just saying you don't understand that drugs don't take away the hard work from what those guys are doing.
No, and then
it makes them work harder, if you can imagine.
It's a level playing field, right? Because they're not being drug tested, so they all know what's going on. So, and they all decide to make those decisions with their life, and it's worth it to them. And you know, and
And let's face it, there's old people that are, like you, again, like whatever, could talk about long-term effects, how it's going to affect them or whatever, but that's just
Hey
is
man,
not their
if everything
domain.
they
So
told us about steroids was true, Arnold Schwarzenegger would have been dead 40 years ago.
I use somebody like Sylvester Stallone or
Yeah.
an old bodybuilder like a Robbie Robinson or something who's in his 70s now.
Yeah,
You
you
look
bet.
at these guys who've been lifelong bodybuilders, lifelong
Yeah.
in this stuff, like you said, Schwarzenegger. These guys are still alive and kicking. Fucking Stallone looks fantastic. So,
Yeah. And how much
Yeah,
shit
so I
did they
think-
take? Like, come
and
on.
how much, like, look at how much better Stallone looks than the average guy his age, and Schwarzenegger. So it also got to tell you, because they probably still on it now, which proves that the stuff, testosterone and blah blah blah, works for like longevity for people.
Yeah.
HGH, testosterone, again, testosterone replacement therapy, as they call it with the docs, like that stuff is so we didn't like what didn't exist years ago. That's new stuff now.
Yeah.
and that
Canada's so
stuff's so
far
much
behind
amazing.
in that regard. Canada's so far behind.
Yeah,
Like, I tried to
My-
talk to my doctor about it. He honestly won't even have the conversation with me.
I'll give you my
Right.
doc's name. I'll give you my doc's name off air. He's so cool about it because
Yeah.
he just
Well, I just-
understands an age thing.
Well, I just told my
you
doc,
know-
like, do you have any idea how many fucking head injuries I've had? Do you have any idea the damage that's been done to my pituitary gland? You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
he just doesn't get it.
No, so is he an older guy, younger guy?
He's a younger guy. I would peg him.
Yeah.
Well, I've been seeing him for a long time. He's probably in his late 30s now, maybe early 40s.
Yeah, so he's about 10 years younger than us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I just say, I think, I think doctors are becoming more and more open to it, just like with the cannabis.
Yeah. My
Like,
doctor,
I'll
I
give-
will say, I'll give him credit. He's really, even if I talk to him about THC, he's extremely conservative. You know
Yeah,
what I
okay.
mean?
So there you go.
he won't issue me a Tylenol.
Brother, I'm going to give you it, man. So, you talk about, well, your doctor was the opposite of the one I'm about to talk about. You talk about concussions and all that. I went to the headache clinic, the what they call Champs or whatever, the headache clinic where the neurologist used to work at the Foothills Hospital. It's now at the South Health Campus Hospital
Right.
because of my post-concussion syndrome. And one of my side effects of my post-concussion syndrome was I would get these things called cluster headaches above my right eye here. It would puff out, swell out my skull. My wife would watch
Really?
it happen, and my skull would literally push out. My right eye would feel like it would bulge. Like, those freaks when you see in a movie where one eye is sticking out further, like my eyes
Right.
start becoming like that. Man, like I'm not talking like one of these big tough guys, like blah, blah, blah. I don't want to sound like a tough guy, but seriously, I'm not really afraid of anything that used to freak me out like this. Like I was, when I would get these signals, what they called auras, about 20 minutes before it happened. And I would start freaking the fuck out because I knew the pain was coming. I knew it was coming. The only thing that was good is I knew it would only last 20 minutes, an hour max, man. So I would literally time it and just fucking ride it out. And sometimes I'd get delirious. Like my wife was would tell me stuff that I was saying and doing. I'd be fucking projectile vomiting like the fucking Exorcist.
Really?
So the doctors tried everything, every fucking type of medicine that was available. These neurologists, right? The fucking headache docs. Every type of experimental shit that was coming up, the cutting edge stuff that was coming all for 20 years after done wrestling, brother, for 20 years.
Really?
Finally, the one of the head fucking doctors says to me, "We're done. We've tried everything with you." Like the last thing these fuckers tried with me was it was on my birthday. I had just recently divorced from my ex-wife, so my kids are probably around 8 and 5 or something like that. I tell her I'm done with taking this fucking bullshit meds. They're not working anymore. And then they fucking end up giving me this fucking medication, right? Fucking end up the nurse. I'm talking to the doctor. The nurse doesn't fucking hear what I said that I'm not taking anymore. As I'm talking to the doctor, injects me with this fucking new type of experimental medication.
Oh,
I get home. Next thing I know, I'm blacked out for 24 hours. I'm taking care of my fucking kids. And I don't remember it because this fucking experimental medication that they fucking tried or was just being
Really?
brought to market to help with my headaches or whatever, or something that didn't agree with me or something like that. So it was crazy. So, but whatever shit, they at the end of the day, they weren't being malicious or trying to hurt me, right? So I don't have any ill will towards them because they'd been so
Right.
good to me and tried to help me over the years.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the head doctor,
right or
finally says
wrong,
to me-
the intentions were pure.
yeah, exactly. Doctor says to me, "Have you ever heard of psilocybin?" Yeah, of course I've heard of psilocybin, doc.
Well, just the one time in college.
Yeah, exactly. You got
Yeah.
just that one time. Fuck. So yeah, I've heard of psilocybin. And so she says to me, she said, there's studies at Johns Hopkins University about how psilocybin can help with like cluster headaches.
I've actually been
headaches.
reading so much about psilocybin therapy lately.
Yeah. Yeah. So look up psilocybin and cluster headaches. So basically she's telling me, but she's like, I can't prescribe it for you because you can't, there's nowhere that they makes it's not legal. She's like, she wanted to run a study with the University of Calgary. And it would cost something like $10,000 a gram to produce this stuff, to reproduce, to get it accurate with the psilocybin, right?
Oh,
Because
okay.
as you know, with the psilocybin,
So they know exactly what they're getting.
exactly what they're getting. Because you know, with the mushrooms, you get 2 grams of mushrooms. You don't know exactly what you get, which part of the mushroom has more psilocybin in it. Like you have no idea, right? You're just eating the shit.
Yeah. Okay.
So to get
That
it
makes
completely accurate, so like I read studies with, it was like way too expensive. It wasn't fiscally, it didn't make any sense.
sense. Right.
So financially make any sense. So she's like, so I can't tell you like how or what, but if you know a way that you can get magic mushrooms, and she told me to check in this
you might know
website,
a
Cluster
guy.
Busters. Yeah, exactly. If you, and I remember, man, I still got the script, man, because the script where she used to write all these funky medications literally said psilocybin on it. And to this day, I still got it, man, because it was like just fucking hilarious to see the doctor literally write a
That
prescription
is
for
funny.
me. So I microdosed with psillocybin for 30 days. She told me to microdose. I researched it. I just
How many
drank
milligrams a
mushroom
day?
tea. I would say about 2 milligrams of mushroom. I would take 2 milligrams of mushroom, make it into tea,
Okay.
which I guess is, I hear
2
people say that's not.
milligrams.
Yeah, so I hear
Oh,
people,
shit.
sorry, 2 grams. Sorry. 2
Oh, I'm
grams of
sorry.
mushroom,
Okay,
sorry.
2 grams.
My bad.
Yeah.
Which I hear people say you're supposed to do 0.5 grams. So some people will say that I'm doing more than microdosing. But anyways, it was like
they don't know how big you are.
exactly, and how many times we've been there, done that.
I might have a tolerance.
Yeah, exactly, a little bit more so than most. So, anyways, my senses were not so I was hallucinating or anything like that, or having a psychedelic trip, but my senses were turned up to 11. Music sounded better, colors were better. My wife literally called it my happy juice, man. She's like, "This is your happy juice. It makes you like you're just the most happy, smiley guy." It was just
Right.
life was awesome. For like, drank for 30 days. Fuck, I used to get those headaches, man. Once about every year or so, I would have them for anywhere from 30 to 45 days. I would have about 5 to 10 of them a day. So I mean, I'm
You
incapacitated.
just kind of go
can't
through
work.
a spell through it.
So, yeah, this horrible thing where you can't work, can't do anything. And then I would have sporadically the rare one or whatever. Fucking man, thank God I haven't had one since I did that.
Really?
Like yeah, the doctor's been recommending, because I've got some other aches and pains that I a couple doctors recommend that perhaps I try it again. So some of these doctors are actually getting open to the more herbal route
Right.
about stuff. But I swear by the mushrooms, man, for that, like I haven't got, and it helped me so much. Like it was just amazing. And I tried, and I'm not lying to you, and I said I had to try a couple dozen different medications over the years for my post concussion stuff. Right. Because
Right.
like you with the concussions, I see you got the memory issues, you got all that. So since I did that, plus incorporated the CBD, my memory's better. You know, of course, if I get high or whatever, I'm gonna be like anybody if I get too baked.
Yeah.
Zone out or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so then that was so I still again.
Yes. Well, psilocybin is again one of those things, man, that they just haven't been studying with for long enough. My brother, actually, my oldest brother's a university professor, and they're doing studies with they're doing studies at his university. Do you know what I mean? Where they come in, they give you like a counseling session. And again, I'm not there. This is what I've been told. Come in, give you, they kind of work with you with a counseling therapy session. Then they give you a bunch of mushrooms, and the counselor sits there with you while you're on the mushroom.
Yeah.
Go through the therapy session. You come down, you debrief. And my brother knows a guy that had 2 sessions, and the guy says it changed his life.
I've heard the same thing, right?
You know what I mean?
And
So
it's amazing.
well, the thing is, because I'm such a Joe Rogan mark, Joe Rogan's my Oprah Winfrey, to be honest with you. I'm always hearing about all this psychedelic stuff. And again, I mean, this was all stuff I did when I was younger. You know what I mean? It's not, experimenting with all this shit. But all of a sudden you start hearing about, these people that are taking like ayahuasca and DMT and, taking 6-7 grams of mushrooms and going on these wild trips. And you kind of realize like there's something there. If it's just one guy, if it's just Jordan Clark sitting around, hey man, I took 7 grams of mushrooms last weekend. You should try it. It'll make you feel better.
Awesome, brother.
Yeah. I mean, I understandably horseshit, but when you realize that universities are testing with this and finding, the success they have, or there's somebody that I can sit down with and legit draw from your personal experience. When people have these opportunities, they should definitely be open to them.
Yeah, without a doubt, these substances, whatever it is, works. Whatever, go back to the CBD, the THC, whatever it is, it works for people. THC, for example, man. These vets that come back, man, especially here in Canada, people don't realize the shit that those fucking vets saw when they went to like Bosnia and kind of Croatia and that part of the world for the UN peacekeeping in the mid late 90s or early 90s ish. Man, those guys saw like some fucked up shit, man.
I got a pretty good buddy that was over there, man. And he doesn't talk about it. Let's put it that way.
No. And I heard a friend tell me a fucking horror story. Okay. So I became friends with him through the medical cannabis clinic because the doctor had finally said, because they've tried all the fucking sleeping pills, even though they sleep, they still have these horrible fucking dreams, right? So so my more educated, more open doctors realized
the worst part about sleeping pills is you probably couldn't wake up from the scary dream.
Exactly, right? If you fucking take, especially if you take too many of them, right?
Yeah.
So then they tell them to take the cannabis because the doctors out of research realized that if you think about it yourself, especially if you've taken a bunch of edibles, you don't really dream that night. Like or if you do dream, you don't remember.
Yeah, you might remember a clip of it.
Yeah. So these poor veterans that haven't slept in years, man, properly, that are dealing with this PTSD crazy shit. Guys, we can even get them on like a 1-to-1 THC CBD oil on indica.
Yeah.
And man, these guys are like calling you like 2, 3, 4 days later, man, just like almost in tears. Like, I can't thank you. I haven't slept like this in years, but the shit, the shit fucking works. Like, it's just unbelievable. Like how the government keeps this shit repressed.
The sleep. It's absolutely 100% the sleep. Right. Yeah. Like when I was, I was talking to Johnny Devine a while ago. And he's like, man, you guys, I was 20 years behind where you guys were. When you were up and down the highway, I should have been traveling in your car. And I was like, hey, buddy, we weren't using it the same way then that we are now. Like, now, like you say, my brain doesn't shut off. Like I cannot, there's nights where I cannot sleep. So it's handy to have a little THC.
Is it because your brain going? Is it because your brain
doesn't shut off, right? So you have a little THC and boom, I'm sleeping. I'm out.
And for people that don't want to try THC, CBD, because the CBD, especially for that type of CBD, the THC, if you take enough of it, as you know, is going to work like a sleeping pill, right? It's going to knock you out. But the CBD, it just quiets your brain, man. So you don't have that chatter going on. You're not constantly thinking what you did that day, what you're going to do tomorrow. It just kind of quiets your brain down so you can finally go to sleep. And then when you wake up in the middle of the night, you don't start having your brain go again. You can shut your brain off again and go back to sleep.
Right.
So that's what the CBD is really effective for that type of sleep issues. So
right. Well, I was talking to my wife a little while ago about the voices in my head. And she's like, you hear voices in your head?
You're like, doesn't everybody have them?
Well, that's what I said. I go, don't get me wrong. I'm not totally insane. I know they're just my own thoughts. But
exactly. It's not different. It's not like I got some 12-year-old kid in my ear.
It's not my thought in different sounds. They're just different, multiple thoughts at the same time. And that's what I find. It just quiets my brain.
Yeah.
Right? Like
exactly.
When I own my own business, I used to wake my wife up in the middle of the night and start telling her what I had to do the next day. And no recollection of it myself.
She must have loved it even more knowing that.
Yeah.
Fuck.
I'll tell you right now, she hated it when I said I was closing that business.
What type of business was it?
It was a welder repair shop.
Okay.
Yeah, it was. When I opened things, it was one of those things, man. When I opened things, we're rolling along, we were growing, we were doing really well. And then 2016, 2015, the economy just knocked the shit out of us.
So knocked the shit out of everybody.
Well, and just like my timing in wrestling, if I would have waited, if I would have got in 5 years sooner or 5 years later, I probably would have been just fine.
Is that the truth, brother? Timing is everything in life. I'm the same way, same time period as you, same wrestling. I'll never forget the day in my head. Like, I know I wrestled a little bit past it, but I'll never forget it. I want to say it was around 2000. And I'm fucking working in Nashville at the time. And I'm invited to go to the fucking pyramid because I was talking contract with the then WWF. Go backstage to the pyramid in Memphis. And it was around the time when the WWE was swallowing the WCW. ECW was going under. They were swallowing ECW. Yeah. I'm walking in the dressing room. There's literally guys like fucking Benoit, Malenko, Perry Saturn, that are Raven, that are standing there that want to get a fucking job.
Yeah, hoping to get a job.
And I'm like, and then there's me, right? The guy that just fucking trying to. So literally, man, I remember, I'm not going to fucking name names, the guy from The Office talking to the guy from the office, and then not to mention not just those guys, but then all the established guys from ECW. Like I don't want to start throwing out too many names, but guys that weren't working or weren't signed yet, that were like these fantastic wrestlers, already established names from ECW and WCW.
Right.
Guys, bigger names, definitely worth way more than I was at the time. So I'm looking at, dozens of these guys, not to mention the dozens of local guys that came in from the local area to get to, to try and work dark matches or whatever.
Yeah, the other guys like yourself.
Yeah, well, but see, not to pat myself on the back, I already agreed to a developmental gimmick then. So I was about to go to Ohio Valley.
Right.
And that was around the time that Lesnar and Cena and the big guy from Guardians of the Galaxy, Batista, all those guys. It was around the time that all those guys were kind of going in there, right? So I with this guy from the office, and we sit down, and the guy kind of fucking throws me a kind of new contract type thing. Kind of take it for what it's worth. The contract was abysmal, man. Like it was the numbers were horrible. What I had to pay for, I'm not even survivable. Right. So then I literally had the fucking audacity to say to the guy, yeah, can you just give me a little bit and I read it over tonight and I'll get back to you tomorrow. Chris, come with me. We walk down the hallway in the back, the hallway where you go into the dressing rooms, right? And there's fucking bunch of local boys, and there's some of these fucking big name boys from the WCW and ECW. Right. Walk past them all, and there was almost every one of the guys. Hi, Mr. So and So. Hi, Mr. So and So. How are you? Like all fucking trying to fucking kiss his ass to get a job.
Yeah.
Not all the bigger name guys, like the fucking cooler guys like Benoit Malenko and all those guys were just like, fucking ignoring the guy, right? These guys were dealing with the man directly. So I'm talking the younger guys who are more like in my position, even some of the kind of smaller names from WCW and ECW. Those were the guys doing that, right? But so I don't want everybody to misconstrue, think I'm talking wrong about the boys.
Yeah, you're not hacking
anyway, right? So, anyways, you get to the fucking basically walk down to the end of the hallway, and I remember we're standing by where the big fucking walkout is, big fucking wide walkout, where the wrestlers go through the curtains to the ring. And for some reason, I don't know why, but it could be my bad memory all these years, but I remember China having a makeup station kind of right off to the wall to the side where she was off to her own at the time. That was when her and Triple H were still together. Yeah, and start dating Stephanie yet or whatever.
Right.
So anyways, this fucking guy says to me, out of the 70 guys that were there, he said, how many of them do you think, if I said, suck my dick right now, would drop to their knees and suck my dick for what I'm offering you right now? Right. And I'm just like, right. And he's like, I'm willing to bet that almost every one of those guys, at least 75% of those guys would do that for me. And I'm just like, that's fucking it, man. I'm fucking this, and that was when I, had, and then my back was so fucked up. It was hard to work anymore. I was slowing down. I was just like, that's it, man. So I worked a little bit more after that, but that's when I fucking realized the business for what it was worth and stuff like that. Plus, at that time, I don't know if it's still the same way. I don't know if it was the same for everybody, but I look back now and shit is what it is. Like you said, it's a huge amount of timing, but politics too, man.
Oh, like, yeah, man.
The Hearts hated me in Calgary for whatever their fucking reasons. I don't know if it was because of Bad News. It was like my second dad, and they did not get along with Bad News. So I don't know if it was because of Bad News Allen or
I don't know, man,
or whatever, man. But they had heat with me, man. They like how many fucking matches did I fucking job working for the Hearts? Remember that?
Here's the thing I think about them, because they were, and they were the same way with my brother.
Yeah, they were the same way.
Like it was, and I don't know. I think in their mind's eye, they were like, and I'll say this maybe about Vince too. They would see a guy, cast a type in their head, and that was it.
Yeah.
No matter how the guy improved, no matter what he did, change his gimmick, change his work style, that was the way they seen him.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So to me, there was like I always felt, there was some weird booking that went on back then,
Well, man, Ross and Bruce, man, they were different for sure. And I look at them now and I feel sorry for them. I especially feel sorry for Bruce because, man, like he thought he was this, you talk about somebody like, he thought he was this more than he was as a worker and his abilities. And he thought that he deserved to be where his brothers, Owen and Brett were. and he never got that, and then especially, with the way people hold Owen in reverence as as a worker,
Yeah.
and how people hold, and with Brett, like being one of the all-time best workers, of people hold a lot of respect for Brett, stuff like that. And Bruce not only wanted what they had, but he thought he was as good, if not better, that he deserved it, right? And to never get that must have been fucking soul crush, because then he would give guys
And
like
the truth is, I
big,
think Bruce
big
is
Dick
that good.
Dirty Yates, like you'd give like like Dick Pound,
Yeah.
and he'd give these ridiculous fucking names, and these fucking, like he would, to the
Three
point
dicks
where
and a virus.
yeah, where he would hurt himself in the business.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because he was just that fucking stupid and he had a terrible sense of humor, or if it was because he was so bitter at the business. But it was just like, man, the shit that he pulled made fucking no sense.
I think might have even been a combination of all those things. I mean, I think some of it was like almost like juvenile humor that he thought that the crowd would just grasp onto, right? Like I legitimately believe the name Dick Pound, because at the time Richard Pound was the president of the International Olympic Committee. And yeah. So I think he thought, like, if he can get people to call him Dick Pound, then the crowd will naturally chant Dick Pound's ass. I legitimately believe that, Chris. I legitimately in my head believe that. And so, and I can also tell you that I wrestled, I can say probably safely, well more than 200 shows with Richard Pound, and never heard that chant once.
No.
Yeah. So it's that to me is where the booking is just, and what's funny is I heard somebody one, and again, I'm not going to piss on this guy's name because, but I heard him one time say, like, he was talking about, I'll say he was probably talking about me, if not somebody like me, that, been around for a long time, but never made it, never took his tryouts with the WWE. And legit at the time you were getting a tryout, Tiger Khan phoned me from New York. The WWE was coming to Calgary. He says, Kevin Kelly's waiting for your call. Give him a call. I legitimately said, no, man, they just fired 150 guys from WCW. They're not looking for me. Do you know what I mean? That was legit my attitude. And so this guy made a comment that basically, if a guy always was a dishwasher at a restaurant and never went past dishwasher, why would you listen to him? Do you know what I mean? And there is an element of logic in that statement.
But why would just in regards to what, though? I don't understand where.
In regards to say like if I'm say going to give a young person advice in pro wrestling, how to work a crowd or whatever. Well, listen,
no, that's nonsense. So everybody's got to start somewhere. Like,
well, but here's the thing.
If you go, sorry, go ahead.
Well, going back to your comment about politics, I was actually listening to Conan the other day talk. And he actually said, he goes, that's a bullshit way to look at that. He goes, just because a guy never made it to the WWE or never, got signed to a national company doesn't mean it wasn't good. It means that maybe his timing was the shits, or that he never got the look when he should have, or that there was, to your point, politics, getting in the way of stuff. So, I think people don't realize.
I think mine was more ego than politics. You're dealing with a small-minded individual that loved the fucking position of power, and he wasn't the only one in the office. And at that time, he was somewhat of a gatekeeper. And then,
right.
Yeah, I guess politics does have something to do with it, because that was also, if you remember, around the time when Montreal Screwjob happened. Brett's over WCW. Davey leaves WWF. He's over WCW. Yeah. And so I'm going there at the time. So but then as soon as the people, as soon as some of the people that had heat with Brett like that, all of a sudden here I'm from Calgary, start fucking burying me, right? I get associated with Brett.
And I've heard a school of thought that say that might have hurt some of us at the time.
Yeah, and it did. Trained by the Hearts. I think, especially if we were trained by the Hearts, they automatically lumped us in. And I had, at that time, I had like maybe one or two interactions in my life with Brett, passing by saying hi. Right. The Hearts that I did have interaction with had zero fucking respect for me, and I had, like that had nothing to do with the fucking Hearts. If they knew how I my relationship and how I truly felt about the Hearts, maybe they might have looked at it differently. Right. But that just kept the door closed as soon as, because I was really supposed to work a dark match a different night a couple of weeks earlier over in was that in Kansas City? I can't remember, man, but I was supposed to work about 4. My brother and I were supposed to do a tag match at that time. and yeah,
Right.
you know, trained at the Heart Dungeon, and these are coming from, you know, fuck, I don't want to drop any names in the WWF, but guys who had lots of fucking locker room influence and lots of office fucking influence at the time.
Right.
So just figure out which guys in the WWF and guys that were known to have heat with Brad, you know, in the ring, and and also their associate and his associate and their associate. So all I'm saying is, you know, so, and then they talk blah blah blah, and then all of a sudden I'm taken off the card, not booked anymore. So just by being from Calgary or whatever, just fucking, and you do talk about politics. Again, I look back on it, whatever, man, it is what it is. I had a fucking awesome career. I had lots of fun. I never got to do quite that. I never got to go quite there or whatever, but man, time is everything. It led the door to open other things, like I said. And then especially like what I'm doing now with the psychology stuff and doing the hypnosis. And I wouldn't be doing that stuff. And I love working with the mind and helping people, man. The best thing is the love that I get when doing it, when I hear how it helps people, it helps improve their game or whatever. And I, you know, like I do like helping people quit smoking and lose weight, but ultimately I've always loved athletics and I like peak performance, right? And the thing you talk about UFC fighters that I say I can relate to, and you know, of course, it's the exact same business as MMA fighting, dealing with promoters, how you move from the smaller promotions and the pay scale to the upper medium size and then blah 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 promotions and UFC like the WWF. But it's so that's something I've been able to relate to a lot of these fighters. It's like, okay, even though wrestling's a work, it's still just you and another guy, like in front of all these
still
people,
entertainment,
right? All these eyes are all on you. You can't fuck up. You got to do the job. You know, it's a lot of pressure having all these eyes on you. So not only do I do the hypnosis on them or whatever and help kind of program in their mind what they want in their mind, because I always create a script with these people beforehand, talk to them about what we're going to put in the script, so it's exactly what they want. And then you know, and so then it's just, and then you just
well, you got to create a pathway to success, right? Like success isn't an accident. You know what I mean? Like you create a pathway, and I think, you know, and I think that's one of those things that to me, you know, and everything we've talked about, I honestly think that's probably the most important work you're doing, you know, is helping these young athletes find their way to the top. I mean, is there any more important work than that?
I'm sure finding disease for like cures for like shit like COVID.
Okay, that's fair. That's probably fair. Okay, you win. Okay, that was an erroneous statement on my part.
It goes back. Let me take it a step back, and it goes back to when I opened the medical cannabis business. I'd always worked jobs, especially wrestling. I was focused on me. I'd even after wrestling, I got into doing stunt work in Vancouver, right? And you know, even up until a couple of years ago, I'd done a couple of stunts and stuff like that, and some acting work or whatever. So I just worked sporadically, for, you know, just for the fun of it. Right. But I lost my train of thought, brother. What were we just talking about? I'm sorry.
The positivity of working with the athletes.
The positivity and working with the athletes. Why am I drawing brain farts? See, side effects of my cancer, man. This is what I love about this shit, man. When I have these total brain farts, go ahead, take it over, brother, and I'll remember what I was saying.
Well, no, we were just kind of talking about, you know, how working with these fighters, working with young fighters. I kind of made the joke that it was important work, and you said fighting disease would be much more so important, which I agreed. And then it was just kind of saying that kind of the where you're working, building a pathway with the athletes.
Yeah. So just working. Yeah. So like we find, you know, doing the different techniques, working with the athletes. And I think the most important thing that requires like to be able to help these athletes is a level of trust. It comes down to it, right? And they have to be able to work with you. They have to be able to talk to you. They have to be comfortable with you. They have to. I don't even think, even if you just take like again the hypnosis out of the equation, just talk about a sports psychologist or even a psychologist to any degree. I believe that people need to be able to feel comfortable and be able to relax.
Well, you got to trust the guy that you're letting into your brain, man.
Yeah, exactly. And so I go back to what I was remembering, right? I got 20 thoughts going on at one time, and then my fucking brain short circuits. I'd always worked different jobs, especially the wrestling business. I'd always just work, having fun, doing whatever. I love my work that I did, even when I was doing the stunt work. when I opened the can, even when I did my real estate, I got my real estate license. I did real estate investing. I built warehouses and sold them and blah, blah, blah. I did a bunch of other work, and everything was a work. And it was, as much as I enjoyed it, it was all about making money. When I
Right.
opened the medical cannabis clinic, as soon as you would help people out and you would get these calls from people, or people would be like, man, that really helped me, man. I feel so much better now. It's working for me. You get this feeling, man. It's like, it feels good to help people, right?
Well,
So I got that feeling, man.
I literally had a conversation where I was talking to guys at work. We got rained out for the last couple of days, so we were all sitting around bullshitting. And I don't even know what we were talking about. It's not even important. And I just told these guys, like, hey, man, if you ever want to feel better about yourself, help somebody else.
It's amazing how much
Right.
it works, right?
Yeah, like people that get selfless, and to some degree it is, but like you say, the high isn't the paycheck in a situation like that. The high is helping somebody else.
Yeah, yeah. And then the reward again. And I get that.
Yeah.
So then I get doing the hypnosis, doing the counseling, I get the same thing with people, right?
Yeah.
Like, and the hypnosis and all the psychology and everything in the world, it comes down to, again, it's the same thing, like even somebody that's an alcoholic or something like that. It's just how much people can commit to it and how much people want to do it and how much people believe in it, right? And then, but like I said before, the best feeling in the world is when you watch these athletes fight. You see them perform the way they want. You see them win, and then it feels really good, like just knowing that even if you just helped them just a little bit, right, that you're able to help them, right? So it's
Sure.
it's
All right,
it's
brother.
rewarding in that way.
On that positivity, I'm going to
I'm
let you
fading
get the hell
out,
out
yeah,
of here.
brother. Yeah, I'm fading out on here, brother.
Tell the people that are watching how they can get a hold of you, how they can reach out to you if they need to. What's your social media? What's in it? Your stores, all that stuff.
You know what? On Instagram, unlimited _ mind flow. That's my Instagram. Yeah.
Okay.
And on Facebook, Chris Lozansky, ChrisLozanski. Hit me up, DM me on either one of them, Facebook or that, whatever. Best way to get in touch with me.
All right.
Website is www.unlimitedmindflow.com. Sorry about spacing out on you there the last few minutes, brother.
Hey man, when you're talking for 2 hours, it's bound to happen with two guys that have suffered multiple head injuries.
Exactly. So thank you for your patience. And man, it's so funny. Like you mentioned earlier, we haven't sat down and chatted for 20 years. And it's like, it's only been fucking 20 days since we last chatted. It's pretty funny, man.
Yeah, for sure, brother. It's one of those, I actually didn't realize how much I missed you until we sat here and talked for a little while. So let's cut the bullshit. We just realized we live 5 minutes apart. Now that things are opened up, let's get together soon, pal.
For sure, brother. I got your cell phone number too. So I'll be in touch.
Let's start stalking each other.
You bet. Say hi to Wendy and Dean for me, okay?
I will. So, and you take care of yourself. We'll talk very soon, brother.
You bet. Okay.
Thanks, Chris.
Lots of love. Bye.
All right, buddy.